Ian Ward asks, if you're within the laws of the game, how can you be outside the spirit of cricket? Your hospital ward asks, if you're losing the patient every time, does really good-looking surgery deserve a ticket? Good test batting abhors the white ball, for if you drive, you may nick it. Why here are 11 batters swiping at everything? Just rename Bazball to fuck it. Because Brooks' shot making made Courtney Walsh look like the Don. Duckett couldn't duck it. How good is 98 when every ball you look like you're gone? Even his namesake from the Vatican could tell Ollie that the shot is not always on. That if Joe Root bore no fruit, this England's batting lineup is sadly neither brains nor brawn. I could shit all day on Bazball, on Stokes' last ditch or gas ball, that this ice white shirt swinging and razzmatazz ball is useless. And if you could lose less and the dumb English fans could booze less, you could see that playing cricket like Aussie is just to be a little less crazy, not bat lazy, not give wickets away easy, and just wait for the dumb English weather to get more hazy. So ordinary balls can look like a doozy and they walk away with the wickets nice and cozy. Oh, Test cricket, why is England your home when celebrating a method while losing the urn is your weekly syndrome? Let me introduce our panel. Every moment that this concept of spirit of cricket comes out, there is always a fully functional law that was very religiously followed to win a competitive game. And yet they find a manner and method to whine and cry about it. Our first panelist is someone who truly understands those laws, for she does law for a living and lives and breathes women's cricket. And seeing how the last Ashes women's test and the T20 games are going is perfect foil for us today because she told someone Chup Lodu and that summarizes everything. Say hello, Vaishnavi Bhaskaran.
Hey, that
Never
is
thought
spelled
those words.
that is spelled LAWDU.
Laudia.
Hi, Vaishnavi. Thank you for being on this panel today.
Hi, folks. Nice to be here. Been a while.
Thank you. In every game, there needs a purist, a man who breaks down the game to its bone, understands the fragments of it for what they truly mean, and helps remove the signal from the noise every time we get too excited about the things that happen outside the core fundamentals of cricket. For this panel, it is and always has been our man Choppy McChopface, bringing in a sea of knowledge and some Zen level calm to this manic WhatsApp group. Say hello, Choppy.
Hello. Glad to be back.
Finally, the man who reads a lot, tweets a lot, and is now not just a bookworm or a customer of Bookworm, but a movement that is creating more bookworms, creating good reads happen from Cubbon Park to Lalbagh. He's our in-house cricket fanatic, the man who is on more elevated moods 9 months in a year when the IPL is not on, since RCB is not losing. Say hello to Samir Mohan.
For a moment there, Josh Hazelwood almost did an RCB just after the break. So I had my proverbial balls in my mouth, hoping one of the 3 months repeat.
It's
So,
Royal
yeah.
Challengers Bazball, da. RCB.
Yeah, it is Royal Challengers Bazball. I think it is what it is.
We have to start with the existential question. We'll start with Vaishnavi. What is Bazball, Vaishnavi? Please help us understand. I am very curious and fully intrigued by this.
Wait, I thought this was a podcast and not like a group therapy session, by the way.
It is heading there. It is heading there since we've given this 4 or 5 days of 9 days now of Test cricket. It's definitely heading there. Vaishnavi, what are your thoughts?
Honestly, I didn't mind Bazball last year when the Kiwis were touring and it was all fine. But I think this time the rhetoric has gotten like crazy, a little bit of savior complex is happening for Stokes in particular, but all of them in general. Because I remember, I think Alex Hartley, who's the commentator a lot, especially for the women's game, she mentioned something like, why don't other teams play like this? And I'm like, because they don't need to, very obviously. Look at Smith, for example. That guy's just making runs again. And I think my larger issue with Bazball is not how they play. You can play however. But just all of this has gotten really, really, really annoying. Just all of it. That's my basic problem. Yeah.
I'm with you. I still haven't wrapped my head around what they're really doing in the name of Bazball. And I don't want to get to the pure aspects of it. So Choppy, I'll come to you last. Samir, it looks like you're raring to go. Hit us. What is bothering you right now?
Oh, there are like 1,000 different things that are bothering me at this point. But I think to be very honest, right? To creep in some recency bias into this, right? Especially in the last 2 sessions, it was just abject free for all, right? Like everything that could possibly go wrong went wrong. There was one supposed contravention that Ben Stokes believes happened after loss, where it was perfectly well within the rules. And what Ashna also came out and tweeted and said that this was a pattern and we observed something like this. Similarly, all of that. And then Aussies kind of were almost this close to naming the Douglas Jardine as their national hero, given what's transpired over the last 2.5 days. But honestly speaking, at this point, it's not even about time, right? Like 372, given the kind of start and given the kind of conditions. Remember, there was no prodigious swing. There is no, there's no crazy movement. There are no demons in the pitch. It was always time versus whatever proverbial Cirque du Soleil show that was happening out there in the Lords, right? Like they only had to optimize for time, and 372 was there. I mean, I don't know, Stokes just got turned on after that whole run-out fracas happened. But that again brings me to my point. Remember, Murli, last year on this same podcast, on the Bazball discussion, we were saying that Bazball is truly revolutionary for having taken the time factor out of the equation of the test cricket and how England have somehow mastered it. I think in retrospect, that doesn't look like a good, all-weather thing to do, right? Maybe today it was how you needed to probably defend, you needed to probably be a little more, circumspect about things, and 372 was their game. And Australia did show that, by the way. In the second innings, they were ready to bat it out. So, yeah, I mean, Bashball is probably just the way I tweeted. It's probably just like a startup that's out there to go for growth at all costs, ends up burning investor money, ends up burning any goodwill that they've got from initial paying customers, and then suddenly they're like, oh, we are almost done and we are like about to shut shop or something like that. So yeah, I think that's what Bashball is probably, and these last 4.5-5 days are like superb example of that.
Fabulous. There is a product marketer angle that he's brought into describing why Bazball is a failing product with no market. And ironically / metaphorically, the only thing they believe they're growing is the market, apparently, despite the cost of losing everything that came their way. Before I go into I already gave a little bit of a clue in my initial intro rant. I'd love to hear your more nuanced take on this topic.
No, I think I'm firmly in the Vaishnavi camp there. I don't have a problem with how they play. I honestly think that if you're going for a target like 370 in the fourth innings of any test, any pitch, any ground, anywhere in the world, if you try and go at it in like an even paced manner, build partnerships, etc., it's not going to happen. I don't know if the Bairstow dismissal changed things for Stokes from the anger point of view, but I think he just realized that the remaining 4 batters are not batters really, and so he took his chances. So I don't really have a problem with how they're playing. I think they are severely short on resources as far as bowling is concerned. As far as their batting is concerned, I mean, I don't agree with how they went about their shot making, etc., and they could have been much more prudent. And someone like Harry Brook, who I believe has 7,000-8,000 test runs for the taking if he wants them, is just going about it a little too recklessly for my liking. But it's fine. I mean, it's something that they believe is going to give them a chance to win, and I'm completely okay with that. It's just that they also perhaps realize that it's not all about big hitting and shot making and all of that, because you saw Ben Stokes himself, like the Gandhiji of Bazball, so to speak, go about it in a very sedate manner for a very long part of his innings today and a bit of it yesterday as well. So I think the hype around Bazball has to be separated from what Bazball is, because teams have gone at a high run rate in the past too. Teams have had attacking middle order batters in the past too. Teams have had bowlers who could bounce out opposition batters in the past too. Teams have had clarity of role too. I mean, if you look back at the world beating West Indies or Australia teams of the past, I'm sure they also had clarity of role. So, and the market, as far as the market is concerned, since Samir mentioned that, I think test matches in England have always been quite well sold out, and they've they have, stadiums which fit in 20-30,000 people mostly. And so you can sell out that stadium, no problem at all. It's always been the case, especially for Ashes. So, I mean, the hype around Bazball and what they come out and say in press conferences and all of that is one part of the equation. And that's, pretty annoying. It gets on your nerves and irritates you no end. But I think as far as the cricket is concerned, they're free to go at it any way they want. And maybe they'll realize over a period of time, it's something that, has been faced up against a very good bowling attack in Australia for the first time. Maybe they'll keep refining their ways. Maybe they'll keep getting better. But I mean, the test matches have been pretty exciting, pretty interesting, and I'm completely okay with that.
Fabulous. See, this is the problem with Chapi, right? He makes things sound very grounded, and I get really worried. I'm like, oh, there isn't enough shitting on Bazball happening. I still have to, I agree with nearly everything you said, right? But for me, and that's the reason why I didn't ask the question of even the criticism around Bazball, but what it even is, because the what it even is really changing in my head time and again. It feels a lot like what they did in Pakistan or anywhere else when they were winning the way they were winning, were against mismatched sides or sides that didn't stack up against them the way this probably literally world's best team, undoubtedly the world's best multi-geography attack with what they were able to bring even on the Indian shores and everywhere else. It goes to say that when up against better foes, all of their chinks come up. And in that, my anger/rant was more around the fact that it's been 10 days of test cricket, 9.5 days of test cricket, and 0 sessions you looked like you were visibly ahead. Not a single session so far. You could say positively, oh, England are ahead right now. At all points of time, you looked like you were well behind the 8 ball, sometimes trying to find if you're even on the same freaking snooker table. So in that kind of a scenario, you have to at least try and respect the fact that if you could keep wickets with you, there could be something that you could try at, because, and I really love you brought Brook, right? For me, the anger starts even further up the batting order from Pope, that he has a 58 or 61 strike rate, and he's proven as a guy who could play really strong cricket, not go after, the balls that absolutely had no reason to be, hit into any parts, because they haven't scared you. And there are periods of play that people talk about, build-ups that people talk about, and we want to see that in a manner in which that wicket has been deserved, right? And at no point did they look like they were scaring you to a point where you had to succumb. And yet you went after a lot of even Johnny Bairstow's wicket at the point of time to mid-on, a lot of those things, it didn't look like they were scaring the life out of you. And you are a guy who could hit 150 on 160 km/h bowlers outside of the stadium, for Christ's sake. You look scary. And you don't have to try and unnecessarily take people on in this mantle of Bazball or this useless, dog whistle that hangs around your head that you have to blow at it every time, right? That part I don't understand, because I can't even hear the whistle, for Christ's sake. I don't know to what end this method is working. And I really thought at so many points of time, they could have given us a better cricket match. In fact, I actually am against the fact that you think that you are upholding test cricket, because I actually already love it. And you're making me kind of hate it, you absolute nutters, because you are going at it in a manner in which you are making me think this is not it. You are trying to, in the test there are 2 T's and you're making both those T's T20s. That is the opposite of what test cricket wants. We don't want you to add these abbreviations. And in all of those scenarios is why, and if you couldn't play test cricket, you don't know batting, you are a horrible idiot that does not know how to hold a cricket bat, I get it. But you all seem very capable and you have done things that have proven your capability to bat. And against a very quality attack, just letting a few balls go and biting your ego to go after, good ones, which the opposition team is showing you at the other end day after day. What Khwaja is doing, Khwaja is batting like a Zen monk. He could wear saffron robes, thankfully not in India, but he could wear it and comfortably just sit there, because you need to get this wicket from me. I'm not giving it to you. I mean, you made Warner look good. Warner didn't even know if he could bat. Warner came in thinking I should retire yesterday, but give me one more day. And he's here still sealed for 3 more tests. It's just horrible, and I can't digest this. So this is against what I believe is test cricket. End of rant. Sorry, Samir.
I just wanted to say, when you were referring to the Bairstow mid-on dismissal, maybe that's where he was walking towards today.
And I think I remember, was it the first day or the second day when there was that field infringement or a streaker who came on the
Yeah.
field and
It was-
bears
He was fully
and-
clothed, not a streak.
as in field infringement,
That's
technical
Samir's
term.
vision of it.
Yeah, and Bairstow basically choke slammed him or did something, and then I saw the whole tweet that Wisdom put out on that, and the whole thing was, this is the only decent catch he's had all season. I mean, it's there for the taking, right? Like, I mean, you not only make Warner look good, you make him much more palatable for the next 3 top Telugu film reels, right? And God knows what I mean, what are you trying to be like Liberty Media and be like, oh hey, I'll create like some edgy Netflix series like how Formula One Drive to Survive happens, or even half as edgy as what the test was, whose second season was pretty, I mean, passable at best. But again, see what is happening, right? Test cricket in its fundamental factor works. You come to India, you get rolled over by spinners. You go to England, it's like you get nicked and caught off at the slips. You go to South Africa, good pace. Australia, it's like everything, and then Marnus saying no run and randomly asking you who your favorite batsman is. So yeah, it kind of works. And then in Sri Lanka, you always sit on top of a fort and see Test cricket. So it's there, it works. But England have this notion that everyone's fading away from Test cricket. Our players are going and getting like gazillion dollar contracts and just warming benches in IPL. So we got to do something about it. And then there is this galaxy brain idea that they actually credit a New Zealander for it. Whereas I just can't imagine, man. I mean, this was a game that was very well within the grasp, even in the first innings, even in the second innings. I just do not understand where this is all going wrong, right? And despite all of this, it's just very, I don't know whether it's heartening or whether it's ironic to see all the geriatrics in the Lord's Pavilion just booing Alex Carey and the Australians as if like their own team has like achieved some great English era, achievement or something like that, which is not the case. So yeah, I mean, with Bashball, I mean, given the record of how predictions on this podcast have been reverse jinxed, I'll probably stick my neck out and say Bazball's days are numbers. Brendan McCullum, Baz is going to stay back, but this approach, this, throwing the kitchen sink at everything and you live by the sword, die by it, I don't think it is going forward after this Ashes. One more test, even if they draw or something, the urn is gone, right? Like at this point, we can safely assume that Australia have the urn firmly within their grasp, one hand also. So I genuinely don't see Bazball happening. And if they if they continue in here and then if they come to India and then they get walloped, my word, it's going to be such a national shame. Choppy.
I don't know, man. I don't think it's that bad, to be honest. I know it's fun to sort of rant against it, and I'm all for it. And I really want to make fun of, Broad and England and all of them. But I think you take this test match, for example, you criticize the approach that England had in the second innings or whatever. But the fact of the matter is that at one point in time, the Australian team confessed and their captain confessed that, they had their hearts in their mouths because of how Ben Stokes was going. So, see, I'm not for one moment saying that, I want my number 5 batter to step outside leg stump and, go for a cross-batted shot against an attempted bouncer. He should be able to fend it off. He should be able to hook it or pull it safely. He should be able to, bunt it down to fine leg for a couple of runs, etc. I'm not saying I want it, but I'm saying it's different. It's fine. I don't want to prescribe a particular method of how they should go about, their cricket. If I want England to lose, that's always the main simple objective. But as long as, they are going about it in a way that suits them, and the dressing room's support is there, I don't really mind it. As I said, they have come against a strong opposition in terms of bowling for the first time. They have quite a few holes in their bowling lineup. You saw how Anderson is just, not there at all. Broad is perhaps the only one who has his tail up and is consistently able to churn out good spells. Tongue was good in this test, but Robinson again, pretty slow and pretty forgettable, as Hados called him. So I think they don't have a spinner of note. I mean, Moeen Ali got injured in his finger last test, and then this test they had to do with an all-pace attack with Joe Root filling in. So I think there are a few chinks in their armor, as Murli pointed out, which when they will get filled will make them strong in the bowling lineup again. And yeah, the batting needs to come good. Maybe they need to change a few batters. Maybe they need to play more like Stokes, for example, who has a method, who's not random. He's been out of form for quite a long time, but today he came so good, so well. So I'm completely okay with it. I just think that as I said, the stuff that they say in pressers, etc., is the irritating stuff for me. But I don't mind another kind of Test cricket. It's worked for them in multiple series against multiple nations, at home, away, etc. And this is the first roadblock they've hit. May they keep hitting such roadblocks, but I don't really mind how they're playing it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one. Listening to this press conference with Ben Duckett, in which he mentioned that I think a couple of years ago he never thought he could be an England opener, because I think the question posed to him was how many balls he left in that innings, and he left 2 balls. So basically he said, I don't leave balls. That's how I've always played my cricket. And I think Bazball is a lot of bravado. It's simply they making the best of the resources available to them, which is guys like Duckett, right? Which is, I mean, fine. I mean, this is how they play. That's how they play. That's fine. But that said, I don't think the Pakistan tour was the greatest judge, or I mean, it can't be like a standard to measure any cricket team, right? I mean, Pakistan is not the best Test cricketing nation. They also churned out Rhodes, so I mean that worked again. And I mean, I think Bazball or no Bazball, I think Australia would still beat England anywhere, right? I mean, so I mean, I don't think either tests are a good metric of whether Bazball works. I think simply put is just them utilizing the resources in the best way they possibly can. I mean, I just assume a lot of these guys wouldn't last if they try to play good old fashioned Test cricket in the way that Joe Root can. Yeah, I think it's that.
That's spot.
I mean, I think Usman, for example, someone mentioned Usman earlier. You need to have like ginormous amounts of skill to be able to do that. I mean, that guy can go on the back foot and then, defend a ball coming into him from a spinner with a straight bat, right? I mean, you need to have enormous amounts of skill to do that. And he can, hit the same ball at 3 fielders on the offside or in the gaps between those fielders. So if you don't have the wherewithal, which is going to be the case for a lot of batters, as they come up facing more white ball cricket than red ball cricket, if you don't have the wherewithal, the technical, acumen to last against the kind of bowling that Cummins and Stark and Hazelwood can churn out, maybe this is how you'll go about it. I mean, it's for them, it's not about 3 guys scoring 80 each and then the other 2 failing. Maybe everyone gets a 50, 40, 80 in whatever 50, 60 balls, and that's their best day out. So I mean, it's something that they've tried to do, and maybe they'll come up short a couple of more times in this series. I hope that's the case. But it's just something that's still taking Test matches to the last day. They're still being, I guess, competitive against a very, very good Australian side, a world beater Australian side. They've just been crowned world champions at Test cricket. So I think it's fine.
But then this is not England at its competitive best, right? I mean, come on. Pre-Bashball.
This is England at its competitive best is actually the perfect way to phrase it. This is not England at their best, but this is as much as they could possibly compete, right? Because, and I have 2 points that I really want to double down on what Chapi said. Number one is, hey, if they played any differently, would the results be any better? 0 English people believe so. You should see every tweet by the English guys who say, oh yeah, he got out. Well, if he didn't get out this way, we'd be 100 for 6. We'd be 105 for 9. They strongly believe that it would slide a lot further, a lot faster if they tried to hold out. They would have played at 3 or 4 strike rate, run rate or even lesser, but they wouldn't be able to amass the runs. It's going after that to try and upset the opposition's momentum or whatever that they think could at least leak a few runs for them in their favor. That's kind of how they see it. And the second thing is, I don't think what Stokes is playing is Bazball at all. Actually, Stokes, despite being the proponent or whatever, the champion or the torchbearer of this, is playing. He got, let me actually tell you the exact numbers, right? He got 17 of 58 at a strike rate of 22.31 in the first innings. It was the most, and like you put it, sedate innings. He was measuring the bowlers out carefully, trying to play it out. And it wasn't like they were at a horrible place. I know they started at 188 for one or 190 for one, but it was 222 for four when he came in. And he got out to a pretty good ball. That's okay. But nevertheless, he really measured himself out and he wanted to take it to the next day, all of which are very common test practices. Played out till tea, played out till end of day's play. That was great. Even today, he didn't go swinging from ball one. He defended a lot of good balls. He left them out. He was very careful in watching. And this overused term of seeing the cricket ball the size of a volleyball, right? He really brought it to that level where he was seeing it so big that you thought he was swinging at everything. He was waiting for them to get that one hard length rising up to his waist or somewhere that he could hit to the same spot. Like you could put a person, a white dude sitting in the mid-wicket stands, and he'll catch it every time because he was able to, with razor sharp precision, hit it there. So what he did was outstanding cricket. To me, I loved what he did. And there was one question that I think somebody asked in the WhatsApp group: do you support Stokes at least now? I don't care about England or anything. But that kind of cricket I love, when you play an opposition single-handedly to a point where you scare them. And that I think Stokes did perfectly, and all credit to him. I agree with the fact that the rest don't probably have that kind of batting chops itself to play this kind of cricket. That being said, I don't give that credit to Ollie Pope, probably not even to Johnny Bairstow, and to a few others who have seen enough balls. I mean, you played out India to a 378. You've played some outstanding innings in your life that you could give yourself more credit that a Brook or a Duckett cannot. And in fact, we can't say anything against Duckett. He didn't duck it. He played every ball. He had 98 and 88 to speak for it, man. He's probably the highest scoring person outside of Stokes in this team. Duckett did Duckett things, which is what Head does, which is what Rishabh Pant, for Christ's sake, does. And a lot of those people know what they're doing and they play around their circles. The others, I don't think I can credit that much to them. And I feel so bad that Root didn't rise to the game, because if he did, Chops is spot on. This is way more competitive an English team. An 80 or 100 from Root, and it's absolute game on. Just that they got absolute beauties of balls both innings is just cruelty.
And the other thing is, Australia had the lion handicap this time. So yeah, they were like I said again, 372 was as much on the card. But I mean, you do put it down to good bowling and obviously Root having the couple of failures. I mean, doesn't take anything away from how great a player Root is probably, but it was a good ball.
And I think there's some bit of credit to be given to how Stokes marshals his resources in the field as well. I've already spoken about how the bowling attack is perhaps running really thin for England right now, given all the injuries they've had to their pacers, who they've tried to sort of put together for a long time now, and honestly, it's broken down at the wrong time for them. But the Usman wicket in, I think, the previous test, when he was going so well, Ollie Robinson is no one's idea of any kind of match-winning champion bowler, but he used Ollie Robinson to cut down runs for Usman when he was in such good form, and then had that sort of umbrella field in front of him. So much so that a guy like Usman, who has like the patience of a monk, as you put it, went down the track very uncharacteristically and tried to sort of stroke a wide one towards cover or something and got completely bowled out. So I mean, it's you imagine how England's aim at this is perhaps, let's say, more than the Ashes. A lot of teams, a lot of good cricket teams would get beaten by this kind of a tactic. They have been so far. I know, in the past they've beaten New Zealand, etc. So I'm just saying it's fine. They're trying out something new, and hopefully in the remaining 2 tests or 3 tests, other things are still competitive, and their mistakes can be ironed out by them. So hopefully that's the case. We keep getting such close test matches, which are fun till the last session.
Absolutely. Small bit of theatricality to keep this going. We're doing 3 methods. Samball, Viball, Chopball, to see what you're going to do in the 3 tests that you're, at least for the next 2 tests, we'll start with Vaishnavi. What would you do differently? What does Viball do in this scenario? You have this English team, this level of skill, they've sucked so much. What are you going to do?
I don't actually genuinely think that they've sucked as much as I think this is possibly their ceiling or close to their ceiling, is my personal opinion.
Fair.
I don't think I would change a lot. Probably maybe give Vokes a go if Anderson not working out so great. Vokes can bat. We know he can bat. I think he made a fair few runs in the last Ashes also, I think, in Australia, right? So, I mean, the guy's handy. Yeah, probably. I think that's probably the only change. I wouldn't change too much. Maybe Ollie Pope could, I don't know, like hunker down, play some more old-fashioned test cricket. Feel like he can possibly do that. But, you know, honestly, I think they're near optimized in terms of what they have going on.
And if Moeen is fit, would you take Moeen or you'd still sit him out? It's okay. Viball is Viball. We don't question, right? We follow. That's what Bazball does. Okay. Samball, what's your take? What are you doing differently? Third test.
No, you know, I actually thought Ollie Pope needs a rest, but then I just went on the England team sheet and I looked at it.
There's nobody to replace him.
I mean, Moeen Ali becomes fit. He does give you an option, but then again, Moeen Ali isn't really like a classical number 4, number 5, right? He's more of the, you know, bowling all-rounder or a batting all-rounder of such. So do you bring in Dan Lawrence, which then is like, which then is basically like telling Hammer, meet my feet and doing like a self-injury at this point. So I wouldn't do that. The one change that I would look at is probably giving either of Matt Potts or Rehan Ahmed a go at some point, right? Fundamentally, not as a turning track, but maybe force the issue against the Aussie tail, right? Like there has been some issue there with spin, maybe, but then again, England tracks don't really turn. It's like fairly straightforward, right? It doesn't do things. So maybe Matt Potts, maybe not immediately in the next test, but maybe on the 4th one, again, depending on the result, right? That would be the only change that looks for it. And Chris Wokes, again, the issue was who does he replace in the team, right? Does he replace Broad or does he replace ye old Jimmy who I don't think is being replaced at any point of time, right? Like, and again, you're like, that's the conundrum that you come into. You have 2 really good players sitting in the bench, right? Both Wokes and Mark Wood, genuine pace. They've got the craft, they've got the skill, but who do they come in for? They actually have to come in for the 2 obvious choices. So I don't know. It's not going to happen, but I would pretend that at some point, one of Broad and Anderson might be rested and one of these 2 might get a go. And Matt Potts probably straight up comes in for Ollie Robinson because Robinson's been off color in both the test matches. So yeah, that's what I think is going to happen.
Top ball, hit us.
I think I'll get Moeen in because the tracks are going to be slow and flat. That's my prediction, at least, or that's how I see it. So I'd get Moeen in and probably buy a few wickets when the Australians are trying to, up the ante a little bit. I would drop Anderson. I don't think I need to drop Anderson because with the blow on the head and blow on all parts of the body that he's copped today, I think he's anyway going to be declared unfit. So I think I'll bring in Vokes or Wood in place of him because God knows they need a little bit of pace in their bowling lineup. I don't think I'll change the batting at all. I think they're good as they are. And yeah, I mean, the only thing that I can tell the batters in the dressing room is that you have Root as an example before you. You have Stokes as an example before you. And the younger guys can probably learn from that. I mean, it's all good to go for your strokes. You've had guys from other countries also do that for a long period of time. But it's test cricket. You should have all the gears to the game, not just the highest one. And I think Stuart McGill sort of put it very wisely on some podcast that he did in Australia. I think he said that you're trying to wriggle out of testing situations by saying that, I'm going to hit a cross-batted swipe against one of the best left-arm bowlers in the world. And that's not how you go about test cricket. If it's a challenging situation where you have short balls coming at your throat, etc., you decide how the match situation is going to be and how you can counterattack. There's no problem in counterattacking. How you're going to do it, what are your percentages, etc. So I'm just going to tell the batters that those two examples are there before you. Not all of us need to bat like them, and not all of us need to go at a mad pace. Find your own pace and don't come under any external pressure because we are calling it Bazball or whatever. Just have a good grip on your game and then go about it.
Fab. I'm very much with that. My approach, if I was to, talk to this team, is definitely think they need more pace. But funnily / interestingly, I'm not dropping Robinson because he's still, for me, I think the top 2 wicket takers in this entire, 2 tests so far, along with Broad. And I think he's used well in short spurts, which is what I give credit to Stokes for. He knows how to use Robinson, and I think you could continue to do that. Anderson, on the other hand, is a lot less lethal. Even if Robinson is forgettable, what he does is take a few key wickets from time to time, which I think is still worth it to give short spurts. Definitely bring in Mark Wood to see if I could, sit Anderson out. I want to give Moeen Ali a chance because I felt like having Root meant that they couldn't give the off spinner a go in a difficult scenario where they could still give Travis Head a significant go, and he got a few wickets also to his name. And Travis Head was never even part of the plan. It's just that this was a pitch where you could occasionally demand that the spinner do a significant spell to ease up one end and also bring a change of momentum to the batsman, right? Who can see the ball rushing at him, at every end. And I think that England lacked big time, so probably bring Moeen in. And it may be a difficult change, but the only thing I probably want to tell the batsman is to get out to good balls. That getting out is zero shame. There is nothing to it. But get out to good balls. Don't manufacture wickets for yourself when the opposition isn't. Like, respecting a good opponent is very much a part of the game's fabric. That if they're a good opponent, wanting to, foolishly fight against them, the equivalent of a dog snarling at a lion is foolish fear, right? Just trying to snarl at them is not going to scare the lion off. In the same case, any lions for that matter in this game, right? You just want to ensure that you could hold one end and bat a little while longer. Simply because I felt like the batsmen still got a fair amount of runs. It's not like they were 100 all out in any of the innings so far. It's just the bowlers gave a lot more every time. And I think that part needs some serious restructuring.
Yeah, and I think Australia are nowhere near their best. This is a fantastic team, but I don't think they're anywhere near their best. They have, Warner playing for God's sake. I mean, that guy still doesn't remember his off stump from his middle stump from his leg stump. So I mean, there is a good chance that this team can make a comeback. 3-2 seems like not nowhere near a possibility, but you can always do it. The other change I would make is I would tell Bairstow to not come in the way of protesters raising their voice against global warming. What happened today was probably bad karma he got from doing what he did to that guy. So don't come in the way of climate change protesters.
Yeah. I think there is enough we've spoken about in the men's game, and I think the men have given us enough to speak about. We're kind of tired of it too. I think there was enough action, if not better quality action as well on the women's side, both from the Ashes as well as from the T20 side. Vaishnavi, clearly way more knowledgeable than the Manil here. Tell us a little bit about what went down in the Ashes game, because I know it was a pretty close game there.
Yes, I think Chops, you followed this, right?
Yeah, I did
as well. Yeah, so I think going in, I felt like first of all, the women's Ashes is structured as a multi-format series because they can't be fished with more than one women's test. So essentially, it's 4 points for the test and 2 each for the white ball game, brings it to a total of 16. And I think, at least I personally believe that the test was probably England's best chance of, or only chance of, getting points on the board. simply because I think the Australian women's team it's such a force, right? But also you can see huge chinks in them when they start playing Test cricket. A complete lack of specialist bowlers. It's just basically their whole logic is everyone can bat in that team, which for some time also means they can't bowl as efficiently. Right. So I mean, I felt like England could possibly make it at least get 4 points on the board. But England did, which is what they do often. I feel like I'm not a fan of the term choker, but it's like it applies to them a lot. Frankly, more than the Indian men's team at least. And
do they also
David
have a
Ham-
lot of South African women in the women's team, like they had in the men's team for a long time? Because that would explain it.
They're importing the
but-
choking.
no, but funnily, the South African women's team has a person called Brit. So.
It's all over.
Yeah, so I think they imploded. They've also been, I think, hampered by some retirements and some questionable selection, in my opinion. Because I think they've started the system of, blooding cricketers in the test matches, like how we used to do back in the day, when you'd make your debuts in the test, Dravid and Ganguly and whatnot. And they started doing that with their fast bowlers for whatever reason. Fairly questionable selection. Imploded again on the last day when they possibly, in my opinion, should have been able to bring it much closer, but massive, I think, 90-run defeat. And I think that sort of was the writing on the wall. My prediction is 16-0 for the women's Ashes. Gives me no pleasure to say this.
They lost the one format they could have possibly competed well against, right? The white ball is impossible against that team. My God.
My God, I'm batting till 9. Yeah, batting till 9. 9 bowlers bowl every T20. It's ridiculous. And I don't remember a team as dominant as this team. It's just they just know when to squeeze you, even if somehow you got an upper hand. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
But tell me, Vaishnavi, the penultimate day of the test when I think England had just started batting. Did you sleep knowing that Australia are going to kill it tomorrow, or did you have some hope that no hope at all? Wow.
I think Danny Wyatt was batting in her debut test, and she's a good cricketer, but I don't know. Kate Cross was batting, and I think that says it all. Kate Cross is a good number 10, but I don't know if you want her starting of day 5. We've left out the fact that it was a 5-day test match, which is extremely rare for women. Amazing. Because the 3 tests we've had since the pandemic have all ended in draws, no results, because they've all been 4 days and they've all rained out. So that was exciting. That was cool. If you were an England fan, you probably wanted a 4-day test again. Get 2 points. But I think I'm sorted. I'm stuck on my prediction, which is 16-0 now. Yesterday's match it went down to the wire. It really did. At one point, Australia needed 1 of 3, and then they needed 1 of 2. So it went down, I think, closer than I think anybody expected. But I think that's as far as England's going to get, in my opinion. I guess all of you all will have opinions on that again.
No, I think the Australian white ball team is just a juggernaut. Like they can probably like bat left-handed or whatever, right-handed, all of them, and they would still just like go.
Ambidextrous bowling.
Yeah, maybe. But I really want to talk about Eccleston. I think day 4 was me just watching in awe, how that woman was unleashing one skillful ball after the other. I don't know. It's probably politically incorrect to compare women cricketers to men cricketers and do all of that. But the best left arm spinner that I've watched on YouTube is Bishan Singh Bedi. He was quite amazing, and even in highlights he's amazing. And I think he would have been proud of that long spell that she bowled on that 4th day. The dip, the loop, and the drop that she was getting, and the length she was bowling at, and the line she was bowling, and how the Australian batters were like all at sea and just like throwing their wickets away. It was like, they were like deer caught in the headlights. It was so good to watch, poetic to watch. And I mean, there were a couple of dismissals that she got of really shit balls, but then that's
Yeah.
a spinner's lot, right? You beat the batter multiple times outside off stump, and you have your oohs and ahs, and then you bowl a random long hop, and the batter's eyes lit up, and then they get blinded by the light, and then they give their wicket away. But it was just the most amazing spell of bowling. I missed Gardner's spell, and I'm sure she would have been fabulous as well. But there's something about left arm orthodox spinners that's just poetic, that's beautiful, and Eccleston had like all of it to the T, and it was like the most beautiful thing I did on that weekend. The other person I want to talk about is Annabelle Sutherland. What she came at, what, number 8 or number 9? What number did she come down at? Like pretty late in the order, right?
I think 8, 7 or 8. I think Healy was at 8, so I think she was 7.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean, look at that kind of batting, right? I mean, it's just maddening how you can, as a team, begin to think that, it's my turn to bat now, and I'm going to, probably play like this and, defend this and attack this. And suddenly a batter comes out at number 8 and just smashes you all over the park. And in that fashion, like she's not even one of those names they talk about very, very highly. Probably in the white ball formats, they talk about Tahalia Megra or Phoebe Litchfield and all of that. But man, she smashed them like crazy. And then lastly, Alyssa Healy. I mean, she revealed later how she had multiple injuries in her hands and whatever. And Eccleston had them, chasing the match at that stage. And for her to come out and bat the way she did and get her team to a score which they were ultimately able to defend, hats off. I mean, so yeah, the pair, the Healy pair, are having a good time in England for sure.
Absolutely. There is I thought there was a little more from the English bowling to watch, and I could be wrong in this assessment, than to watch the Australian bowling, because I saw all of Gardner's wickets. The problem was it looked like they were going to get out every ball. It didn't look like the whole setup was there. There was the build up to it and a lot of it. It was good bowling. And of course, they understand bowling like nobody else does because they're, so good at it. But it wasn't the kind of test match bowling. And that is why I loved Eccleston's spell. And I was so enamored by the way she was going at it, right? It was... I couldn't define it as anything better than the perfect left-armers test match spell. And when I was reading up a lot about her after that match, I was like, how is she so good at it? Apparently, she's got 2 brothers or something, and she spent a lot of her younger days playing with those boys. There was this signature incident, the kind that perfectly you expect to happen with an English white man in a school there, where she went and told... the school principal, who was 1% short, and her father is like, my daughter can play. And then the white man in a signature white voice goes, oh, can she have a ball? And he's like, yeah, I think she can bowl a bit. And she runs through the entire batting order, not a single person touches the ball. But this man comes up and says, oh, she has a good ball. And he's like, yeah, she's really good. And then she got fast tracked through 16s, 19s, and then in fact, I think she got selected for the England test team before she could get to her exam. So the father requested that she write her exam and play the next tour. She's masterclass at its finest, and that was absolutely on display. And to this Australian attack, she was the perfect sort of nemesis, the one that could hold them off, because they could have scored 1,000 runs if they wanted to. It was just one woman standing at the other end saying, nope, my left arm spinner ain't gonna let you go. I really love it.
I mean, it was basically Eccleston versus the Aussies.
Yeah.
And it seems to be so often. And I think that's where I think England also sort of screwed up their selection. You have a lot of similar paces. I understand Lauren Filer is faster and all of that. But I think there's a lot of sameness in the English lineup as there is amongst the men again in the bowling. And they could have, I think, used Charlie Dale. I think she's a good old-fashioned off spinner.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of loop, lots of flight. She really gives it a rip. And I think I think they missed the ball on that one. Yeah. Given between Eccleston and Gardner, they picked up 22 of the 40 wickets that fell. But also props to Gardner. I mean, she's really worked on the bowling, worked with Nathan Lyon. She's got the nice up and over that she seems to have gotten from working with him. So, I mean, this in addition to her batting means she's just unbelievable.
And
Yeah,
if
and-
anything, this is the we're promoting Test cricket thing that I want from the English Ashes. Like, they don't want the Bazball approach. This I want. I'm showing Test cricket, so you love Test cricket, and more women will watch and play Test cricket. Love it. Don't give me the garbage you dished out in the last 10 days, England. I don't want that. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that Charlie could have also bitten off some Australian fingers.
Definitely a possibility, man. But now I think, like she's said it, I'm very worried about how it's going to be super lopsided after this, because the one good shot they had, and what a good game it was, right? A beautiful test game that the women's sort of cricket and the sport in itself needed. But now it's going to be just they'll mow through them. Oh, I'm so worried about what's going to happen in the rest of the games. Anything that's there in the T20 side to look forward to from the England end? Is there anybody that's genuinely so attractive? Choppy, Vaishnavi?
I'd like to see Izzy Wong get a game. For some reason, she's again on the sidelines. I'm not getting their entire selection situation, because I think Lauren Bell was the long format cricketer. Charlie Dean was the long format cricketer. Sadly, they are short format cricketers. Izzy Wong was I don't know. I mean, she's not had a game in forever, I think, barring the WPL, which she had a really, really good outing. And I mean, I really like Izzy Wong. I think she's super exciting. She's fast. She can bat. She just has that X factor, which, it's a little bit of like a lot of sameness or a little bit of excitement that I think she brings in general. I think Alice Capsey has a lot of potential, and I think everyone's been very excited about her. And she was great in some of the WPL, but I think they've also now embraced the Louis ball, which is a bit like Bazball, where they talk about how they want to play a certain way, and they're proud of playing that way, and they don't give a shit about the results. I don't know.
It scares me when any statement ends with "I don't care about the results," because what is the
Exactly.
point of sport? Then why are you playing in the game if you're not playing to win it, right? It's strange. Go on, Choppy.
No, I was just going to say that I really enjoy watching the Australians dominate the white ball cricket. I mean, except if it comes off against India. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to them. Just bashing the English women completely in the white ball series. I'm really looking forward to like McGrath scoring like a 50 ball 100 or something like that, because she's the most exciting batter to watch. She thumps it like absolutely no one else does. And yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping to see that juggernaut roll along quite nicely.
Man, it feels like you've taken a time machine and rolled it back 20 years. And now if Australia win the World Cup in the men's side in India as well, it'll look like we're right back to where things were. Australia winning every ball, every color, every format all over again. It feels like we're back in those gloomy days because nothing else seems to be in place. I thought Sophie Dunkley was a great talent, right? When she burst into the scene, I don't know, I expected more from, I don't know about the difference between how to adapt between maybe like white ball and red ball cricket. And I don't know how much red ball Sophie Dunkley, I mean, I think the women's team plays like 2 tests a year or even lesser. I don't know. So it's very hard for them to get practice itself, but I expected maybe a little more out of her. Now in the white ball, I expect nearly nothing.
But VB, they have a pretty good first class scene in England, right? I mean, it's not unlike the other countries. What is it called? The Hayho Flynn Trophy?
Yes, the RHS is your 50 over game, and the CE Cup, your Charlotte Edwards Cup, your 20 over
20
game.
over.
I don't think they play red ball cricket either. So that's the whole thing, right? I mean, Sophie Eccleston's been around, 7 years? This is a 6th test match. Compare that to Harry Brook, for example. Or possibly, I don't know, anyone.
Don't compare
right?
anybody to Harry Brook, okay? Please, this is your last warning.
Fine, like, I mean, whoever's made the debut, like now, Shubman
I'm
Gill.
joking.
Yeah. So I don't think they have I don't think any of the women across the globe have a red ball domestic situation, as far as I'm aware.
Okay.
Which is why, Sophie Eccleston's thing gets more impressive, because, she's bold and she's bold and she's bold after bowling just 10, 10, 10, 4 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Now that we've done enough about the Ashes both on the men's and women's side, there is something that's happening outside of what we call the big leagues of cricket. What should be the right way for us to groom the game in the associate end? And the World Cup qualifiers has been an absolute cracker. No doubt that the sort of the crowned king of the Zimbabwean world, eponymously named Raza, has taken them right to the top of that table, and mad props to him, because he's a star, and there are stars rallying around him, but I think the way he's carrying the torch is amazing for Zimbabwe. What was a great team, 10, 15 years ago. I think they're coming back to that level. But there is a surprising decline in what was a great team, same 30, 35 years ago, that is now probably, or I think is certainly not playing the World Cup this time, West Indies, because of the likes of everybody else, including Scotland, England, and England, I'm calling, they're not so bad as an associate team yet, sorry, Ireland, Ireland, and all the other UAEs and Omans that are really rising up to the occasion that now West Indies are knocked out. It's a 10 format game. And I remember this beautiful tweet that said, hey, 10-team game, because you wanted a 10-team game when West Indies went through. Now, if the same kind of reason is why they are getting knocked out and a better team is going through, isn't that the growth of associate cricket? What are your thoughts around this? Like, what are your thoughts about the West Indies decline? And how do you feel about the way associate cricket has been run right now? What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear both of your thoughts. Bash. Chops.
Let's that.
Chops go.
No, I think as far as West Indies not being in the tournament is concerned, I think it's like, I think it was Italy who were not there in a few football World Cups, and I mean the world didn't end, and they came back and they did the other stuff. So I think West Indies are going to be able to find a way. They have India coming to their shores quite soon, so that's going to be a bit of a chance to rise up in the global mind space, so to speak. But of course, I mean, they've had structural issues for a long time, and perhaps all our cricketing viewing lives have been spent seeing the steady decline of West Indies cricket. So this day had to come, and I mean, they have probably won a couple of global tournaments in the past decade or so, but that's been on the basis of a team of individuals who have just perfected that format, in the sense that just hit sixes and forget about the rest, and they've been able to do that to perfection. But obviously, anything to be sustained over a period of time requires a lot of investment, and honestly, they've not done that for a long period of time, and they've always had clashes between the older players, the administration, the current players, and the whole tug of war between franchise cricket and international cricket, and payments and salaries and all of that. So it'll take some time for them to come out of it, and sometimes hitting rock bottom is the best way to go up, and I hope that happens to the West Indies. They still have a lot going for them in terms of natural talent and the older folks, to guide the younger cricket team to the days of glory again. So I hope that happens, but I don't think it's the end of the world. I think they'll be in better shape, and really happy for some of the other teams who have managed to do well. There's a nice bit of history around the Dutch win over the West Indies with Logan Van Beek's grandfather or father having turned out for West Indies at one point in time. So I mean, how can you not love a moment like that? And that's what we love about the game. And those kind of moments can only be there in associate cricket. So I hope the West Indians make a good comeback, but right now they're pretty much down in the dumps. Sure.
Vaishnavi?
Yeah, I think I mean the West Indies thing, I don't really have anything to add to what Chop said. I think given the whole the franchise cricket inflow that we see, and I think even the board like the ECB is dealing with that. So it's going to be tough for the West Indies Cricket Board to retain talent, and that's not coming from a place of judgment, because every cricketer has to figure out what works best for them. And maybe at this particular point, international cricket is not a priority for them, and it is what it is. I mean, that's all there is to say. I think the West Indies Cricket Board is going to have to take some serious measures, though, to incentivize players to show up for the national team. Is a bit of a misnomer, but yeah, for the team. Yeah. The Zimbabwe thing made me happy, and I'm probably showing my age here, but when I was a kid and I was in the formative years of watching cricket, the Zimbabwe was a fairly reasonable, respected team. I grew up with the Flower Brothers and Olonga and Heat Streak, and it was quite shocking actually to then see the steep decline. So I mean, even though they're completely different players, it makes me a little bit happy. Little bit nostalgia from my end on that.
Yeah.
I'm with you. This is definitely the Campbell, Carlisle, Goodwin, Flower Brothers heat streak. Yeah, all of that, everything about, and I remember how much of their bowling impacted the way I actually bowl. Right, I used to learn a lot because Neil
Johnson
was the first guy I tried to mimic when I tried to learn bowling for the first time. And then when I learned to bowl spin, what was that guy's name? The super fast, handy leg spinner, the guy who's
Paul Strang
was the guy I used to mimic a lot. It's so horrible that I don't, but I know so well who I mimic, because when I was young, those were the guys I really loved to want to bowl like. They were so good, and I learned so much. So I completely am with you. And there is so much charm because it's happening in Zimbabwe, right? So you could hear the happiness. You feel it in just, you don't even have to watch the video. When they win, you could hear the happiness in the grounds. And it's so beautiful because it's not like an associate team is doing well. The associate nation as a whole is doing well and rising up. And I think that's something that Zimbabwe definitely needed. And I love what's going on out there. With West Indies, I have a very different problem itself. Of course, you are strategically, tactically talking about boards, talking about players, but I think they're playing very forgettable cricket. I can't remember West Indies cricket at all. I don't know what you've been doing, because none of you want to put your heart into the game for some reason. And your heart comes out in the game when you're being paid big checks in any of the leagues across the globe. I have seen the West Indians do it. When you have a checkbook that's huge and you are flown to a fancy hotel and you're able to party outside of the games, you funnily do well, which means if for money you're doing this, it feels like you could bring the same kind of intent at least to the game outside of it, because I can't remember the West Indies national games at all. I also don't remember any of their tests so well. I remember once they beat England when they in England visited. I don't know how long ago that was, but I can't really remember West Indies. In fact, sadly, the only thing I remember them for is how we invited them to Sachin could play his last test, right? That's really all I remember West Indies for, the kind of team that's just available but not really going to compete to the fullest. And I think those parts like hurt me a little. In terms of pure evenness, I'm 100% with Chops. Who cares if they get knocked out? If they didn't play well and an associate team played well and beat them, all ends up, I'm all for it. And I think it helps sort of groom cricket. And for somebody who's trying to play cricket in random nations like Portugal and Germany, I'm like, let every other team, Gibraltar and Malta, go and beat the West Indies. I couldn't care less, because I'd be happy that cricket is growing there. So that's my 10 cents on the West Indies part. But I just felt, I guess a part of me was just surprised that it could come to this level, because I mean the entire fraternity is kind of surprised that they got knocked out.
Yeah, no, I think on the Zimbabwe bit, I completely agree with Vaishnavi. I mean, Zimbabwe were like a tough side. You could not take them for granted at all back in the day. I mean, all of us remember the absolute heartbreak they handed out to us in the '99 World Cup. Oof. When the upcoming chairman of selectors decided to bowl like 1 million no balls and like 1 billion wides in the same match. That was like, what a heartbreak that was. And yeah, I mean, all these names, that Vesh mentioned were really special. You really liked those cricketers and you followed them and you always wished them well against whatever team they were playing. And not because, you thought that you could beat them when your turn came to play against them, but because they were really, really good and they went about their cricket so nicely. And I mean, now the whole crowd element that you mentioned, right? To have that group of kids or fans of the game like swaying around and clapping in rhythm, etc. It's really special, especially after hearing chants of "Do rupe ki Pepsi" and "Ayer bhai sexy," etc. It's like a completely different vibe to the game, and it's such a pure, natural, nice vibe to the game, which I have enjoyed in bits and pieces over the last couple of weeks or so. And I hope the game manages to rise through in Zimbabwe again. It's still going to be a tall order. We mustn't get too ahead of ourselves, because perhaps the political problems or the problems that the board haven't gone away completely. It's just the will of the players pushing them on, and guys like Raza and Williams, etc., Brendan Taylor, have been just tireless soldiers who perhaps haven't got the kind of love that some of the names that Vaishnavi mentioned have got, because they've been out of reckoning for so long, but they've gone about it nevertheless, and brought home great laurels for their country. So I mean, kudos to them. The West Indies situation, I don't know. I mean, I would tend to believe you're being a bit too harsh, as Vaishnavi mentioned. eh, I think their board has like screwed up for many, many, many years. And as much as you love, Trinidad and Tobago or Antigua or Barbados or, any of those nations, and you love, the common West Indian Federation or the flag, etc. If you're not treated well, you're not treated well. I mean, that's just how it is. And you don't need to look, so far as West Indies to figure out what happens when players are not treated well by their boards. Every cricketing country has experienced that in some shape, way, or form. It's just that the crisis for West Indies is playing out at a time when everything of this nature is well and truly in the public eye, and the other stuff is also happening. Their players are earning decent money, good money in these leagues around the world, which I don't know whether we should blame them for that, but I mean, it's also a point to be noted that the same guys can do so well when they are being treated well, and you can't put all of that down to just money, or at least I would like to believe so. So I guess a lot of work to be done on multiple fronts for them, and every cog in the wheel has to sort of function well together and be well oiled for them to be able to make a comeback, because some of these other teams who they will perhaps keep facing in the qualifiers for a few years to come are going at it so well, and that's heartening to see. I mean, ICC needs to be called out every single time they organize a 10-team tournament. But till that happens, I think we sadly, ironically, get to enjoy whatever the associate teams come up with in such tournaments, slightly off the center of the radar, but even then, some amazing cricket.
Spot on. Vaish?
I want to just circle back really quickly to that bit of trivia you dropped about the West Indies beating England in the test team, which was, I think, last year, right? That was the Bazball origin story, I think.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Yeah.
when they completely lost it and they...
Yeah, and that
complete,
was right after the Ashes drubbing that they received in Australia.
and then they lost to the West Indies, and I think that's when they'd had it. Absolutely. had it.
And they dropped Anderson and Broad for that series.
Yes.
And my God, they cried like anything. They went to their mummy and their papa and they said, how come we are not in the team? And Robkey said, okay, we'll change the entire thing, but you're going to be in the team.
Wow. Remember uncles going and crying to mummies and papas not be the
Bazball is upon us because two grown-up men couldn't handle being not selected for a series in West Indies when no one was going to watch.
Alas.
And also, I think because Craig Braithwaite who decided to hand them that loss. I think he's the super villain's origin story, I think.
Yeah, amazing opener.
Perfect. And that's also a perfect ending note for us to have discussed a beautiful range of things. Some very nice takes on the way everything has been done from the England side, from the English women's side, from the West Indian, Zimbabwean side. And thank you so much for being a wonderful, panel here. I'll say bye, Vaishnavi and Chapi.
Bye.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Bye to Samir Mohan, who went to calculate the NRR for the next IPL.
Samir Mohan left us somewhere in the middle to find his calculator, gentlemen and ladies. I apologize for that. But the three of us are signing off on this wonderful episode number. What episode is this?
I don't know, man. In Bashball, we don't count runs and wickets.
Fair enough. We count
episodes.
we make episodes to entertain. The results and numbers don't matter. So this is the entertaining episode. Signing off is Vaishnavi, Abhishek, and RCB Samir, and myself, Murli. Thank you so much and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.